Hey, I'm Pat Monahan. Welcome back to Patcast. And here's what's been going on with me. I'm in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, all that stuff back and forth. I've been writing and traveling, visiting friends in the Bay Area. In my favorite little town in the world, Mill Valley. Let's see. Here's what's coming up, though, that's very important. The 50 Ways to Survive game is coming out on November 11th, with new levels, new characters. It's a lot different, and it's massively awesome. And it's ready for Mac and Kindle versions. And, man, I can't wait to get to play this game. It's outrageous. And what else did I do? I got to do a Ghirardelli visit, and that was pretty intense. I got to go to chocolate school with Dan Crutchcow from Crush and Pergo, and we were all kind of blown away with how great these people are at Ghirardelli, not just as chocolate makers, but as humans, like they really care. So every time you take a bite of chocolate, know that a lot of love went into every piece, even though they make a lot of pieces. They got a lot of love. So this week is the first time I've been able to do a podcast with a professional athlete, and this guy is one of my favorite athletes of all time. His name is Barry Zito, and the way we met is our managers knew that he was musical and asked if he would like to join us on stage. So a few years ago, he came and played at the Fillmore with Train, and we did Don't Stop Believin'. It was a lot of fun. And if you're a baseball fan, you'll know that Zito, as a guy who, he's a guy that in 2012 pitched for San Francisco to win not just the first game of the World Series, but to turn around everything that was happening against the St. Louis Cardinals. And he'd really changed the momentum, and you'll hear all about that over the course of this interview. His accomplishments that we didn't talk about was he was picked up by the A's to start and worked for them for 7 years, and then went across the Bay Bridge to San Francisco and played for San Francisco for the same amount of time. And over the course of that time, he won an American League Cy Young Award. He made 3 All-Star teams, and he's got 2 World Series rings, so that's pretty dang good. He's originally from Southern California, but it's amazing how he ever made it there, because off mic, after the podcast, Barry told us about his family history. His grandfather was a 5-star general in Mussolini's army, and after a complicated and difficult early life in Italy, his father made it over to America and settled down in New York. I think with the Bronx, something like that. Yeah. So he became a very successful arranger of music, and he actually arranged music for Nat King Cole, which, man, that was my father's favorite, and Barry's father's favorite, I think, as well. His mother sang in Cole's band, and it would seem that music continues to run in the family. Barry is a talented musician himself, and he plays one of his own original songs for us during this interview, which is great. I really like this song. It's called The Loneliness. He's currently helping his niece find a conservatory to study violin, which she's been playing since she was 2 years old. Man, that family has got a lot of talent. Barry's talents don't stop at baseball or music, though. He's an avid surfer, practices yoga, and some people have given him a hard time for not being focused enough on baseball when they've seen him doing yoga poses in the outfield. But 2 World Series and a Cy Young Award should probably be enough to silence critics. He's an amazing baseball player and a great guy. His contract with the Giants just ended recently. He took out a full-page ad in the SF Chronicle to write a thank you letter to his fans in the Bay Area. That's the kind of classy guy that I got to interview. So it's one of my favorite things that I've done so far. And here it is, Barry Zito on the Patcast.
What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking. What do you do? What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking, looking at you. You got to get it while the getting is good. Laugh when you can, cry when you should. You got to give it till the giving is gone. Do what you can, then you move on. What do you do when nobody's looking?
Hey, everybody. Pat Monahan here again, and I'm here with my first athlete. So I've done a comedian. I'm going to do an athlete friend of mine in Seattle next week, Marcus Trufant. But this is a real thrill for me because I get to interview you and have a conversation with you. This is Barry Zito, and you guys know him as a major league pitcher for the San Francisco Giants. But, man, you got a long history of being awesome. This is like the Giants is a speck of your time. You've been awesome since you were in high school, huh?
Oh man,
It's like being on teams that were all state, all national, like everything.
Yeah, like coming from well, it's funny because most guys, I think, from a young age, there's always the standouts, like in Little League and stuff, and I was always the cusp all-star guy, like the last one that was outside of the political cliques.
Really?
And me and my father, I was never friends with the main guys on the team, and my father, because the dads are so instrumental in Little League, so he was always kind of ostracized by the other fathers.
Really?
And then, at some point, like when I was a senior in high school, he had to pull me out of a public school I was in and put me for my senior year in a private school because, like, the coach really just hated me so much where I was at. Yeah. And that saved me.
And do you know why? Why did the coach not like you?
He didn't like me because I was involved in really kind of not the best extracurricular activities, off the field. I hung out with the wrong guys. I hung out with, I was into some bad stuff and abusing some things, you know what I mean?
And were your parents kind of the, hey man, I'm not going to show up and keep an eagle eye on my kid all the time. Like, you're the coach, you coach my kid, and I'm going to go to my job and do, because that's kind of how my parents were. Like, they weren't like a lot of PTA parents. Is that kind of how what the lifestyle of yours was?
They certainly, they weren't involved in the school system that much, but they were actually very strict. They drug tested me for like 2 years straight every week, and we couldn't afford it.
You were talking about like you're from Nevada?
So I was born in Vegas, and both my sisters, they're 9 and 13 years older, they got involved in some pretty bad stuff themselves in Vegas because there's not a whole lot to do there at times besides these extracurriculars.
That's most of America. There's two things to do: get in trouble and have babies.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is more trouble if you're 16.
Yeah, exactly. So my mother was a pastor in the church, and we moved to San Diego when I was 6, and she was the pastor. My father didn't work; he stayed home, so he was like homeschooling me with baseball every day for 12 years, and so they were strict, but they weren't involved.
What kind of church is this?
My grandma actually started a teaching in the 60s called Teaching of the Inner Christ. The church was thriving for a while in a lot of parts of the West Coast, and then they never really got the young leaders. So it's still around. In fact, I was just at a service on Sunday in San Diego. But that was the church, so my mother was a pastor, and my dad didn't work. And so that's why they couldn't afford the drug test, but they thought it was important still.
Wow.
And so I passed most of those by strictly just food coloring and water. If you can actually believe it. They weren't testing like the pH and everything back then.
Pergo is with me, and he is so impressed with you right now. Like he thought being a Major League Baseball player was awesome, but being able to beat the drug test as a kid is far more awesome to a guy like Pergo.
Yeah. It was out of necessity. I came home one night, my mom said, "We're going to Grossmont Hospital right now.
Oh.
And I like frantically ran in the kitchen and like grabbed the yellow food coloring, and then I went and put like warm water in the thing and put the food coloring. And of course, like 2 days later, she's like, "Okay, you passed." And both my parents have passed over now. So, my mom's probably going, "Gosh dang it, Barry, what are you talking about right now?" So,
man, kids are slick, man, but your parents want so badly for you to have passed. You know what I mean? Like, as a parent, do you have kids?
I don't have kids yet, no.
That going to be part of your thing, you think?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You seem like you're going to be a phenomenal father. Like, you just have that energy about you that a kid's going to be real psyched to find out that you're their dad.
Yeah, man, I'm so stoked. I'm so passionate whatever I do, and raising kids and creating another life would just be like the greatest undertaking.
Somebody like you, there's so many questions that I have. If I don't start asking them now and we just talk, I'm going to find that 4 hours later, you're going to be like, dude, I got to go. But I, as a fan of what you do, because I want to talk about music too, because music seems to be as much of a passion for you as ball, and I want to see how they related. But a friend of mine who's a massive fan of yours sent me some questions. Can I run through them real fast?
Oh, sweet. Of course,
I got a couple friends that frantically sent me some stuff.
That's cool.
What's your favorite stadium to pitch in, other than AT&T, assuming that's one of them?
The only one that's gotten destroyed that shouldn't have, which is Old Yankee Stadium.
Really? That's Old Yankee Stadium?
Tragedy, yeah.
It's a tragedy.
I think it's a tragedy that they knocked it down. And you got all these other ones that are still there.
And
Wrigley,
if they did that to Wrigley or Boston, how would you feel about that?
I mean, the same, but Yankees where it all started, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, so they kept all the other ones, but that's the one that went.
Wow.
It's weird.
And you got to pitch there.
Yeah. When I was a rookie in 2000, I was able to pitch a playoff game there.
Wow.
And I beat Roger Clemens when I was 22, and that was
that's cool, man.
That was a huge thing, yeah.
Were you a cocky kid, like with all of this, or were you super mellow like you are now?
I think I was always mellow because I was raised in a family of musicians.
Oh,
and
that's
so
cool.
I never, I've always had this internal battle, dude.
When you beat a guy, because I always heard stories about Michael Jordan being on the court and just tearing guys up. Like so much shit talking that it was crazy. That was part of the game. That was not part of your game.
No, I've actually always aspired to like do that and be more overtly, between the lines.
Oh, that's good, man.
Kind of be an asshole, like almost try to, because I'm just real mellow. But I always admired guys that could do that.
A friend of mine who I went to high school with, his name is Stepnoski. And he was one of the great centers of all time, and he was super mellow. And he's got a couple Super Bowl rings for Dallas, Mark Stepnoski, and he is just like that. Like he's super like, well, I don't have anything to be mad at you about. I mean, I'm gonna beat you up this weekend.
Yeah.
But then when we just go, get high and be friends. You know?
Totally, man. That's great.
So that's amazing that stadium's gone and that you got to pitch there. That's pretty cool. Who did you watch growing up? Was there a favorite player of yours?
So I grew up in La Mesa and also El Cajon, San Diego, which is inland, about a half hour inland. And Tony Gwynn was, for me, like that was my hero growing up. And, I'd go down to Jack Murphy Stadium and watch Tony, win batting titles every year and all that.
Wow.
And, so he was my guy. I never had a pitcher that I really...
Did you get to hang with him ever?
I was at a baseball camp once and I was like 12 and he was there and I got an autograph. And then later in life, he was an announcer. I was pitching and I would always tell him hello. And, but ironically, these guys that we idolized growing up, at least baseball, they don't want to hear that they were our hero. Because it makes them feel old, which sounds funny. Because you think, like Jeff Bagwell was a guy for me. So I got to play against Jeff. And I saw him, in a bar in San Francisco when I was playing for the A's. And I was like, Bagwell, dude, you were my guy. And every guy you say that to just kind of goes, oh, man, I don't want to hear that. Like,
really?
You're making me feel old right now. Yeah, isn't that funny?
No, that's too bad.
Yeah, so
man.
Yeah, but, it's
if you said that to me right now, because I'm 100 years older than you, I'd be like, thank you, Barry. Give me a hug.
Totally. Like Mr. Rogers or something.
So, do you have a favorite teammate? Is there like one of your buddies that either from a past team or on the Giants that you'd be like, man, I'm going to be friends with that guy forever?
Yeah, there's three guys that I always maintain friendships with from the A's, Houston Street, Eric Burns, and Danny Herron, and then from the Giants, like so many guys I'm going to be friends with for a while, and one guy that really stands out for me is Tim Lincecum. He just marches to the beat of his own drum. He reminds me of me when I was coming up. Like he just does things different. He is who he is. He's a little more sensitive. He kind of feels things. He's aware of things. And
he's a Seattle kid.
Yeah, he's a Seattle kid, but he's such a sweetheart. And
I heard stories about him through my family, because my wife's family, they're all from Seattle, so they know a lot about. They know a lot about Tim, and that his father was insistent when he went to all the places that he went to school and then on to the majors, that he had a coach that was going to let him pitch the way he pitched instead of trying to change his method. Because you guys all have your own way, and if you start messing with that because you think it's better in the long run, it might crush you.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, you run into some coaches that, you know, they need something to prove, or they want to change someone to put their mark on them. And usually that's what they do is, you know, if there's a guy that's showing some promise and it's, you know, the coach has his own issues, he's going to try to change somebody that'd be like, I'm the one that showed him this. Timmy had the most unorthodox delivery
ever.
You know, like a Sandy Koufax thing. So, you know, his father knew what he was doing when he told him that.
So these are almost done, and then we'll get into music.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for a young ball player? I don't know what that would be. Just be awesome, like you are.
You know what it is? It's just, I mean, this is what I'm learning. I'm 35, and I just feel like I'm starting to re-enter the atmosphere of the part of myself that is just being completely who I am, and not trying to impress people or worry about what everyone thinks about me. And that's how I was when I came up, when I was like 21. And then I went through this like phase for so many years where I cared so much about if people were pleased or if I was doing it right in their eyes. And I feel like now I'm just starting to come back into that. Just be yourself, you know?
Right.
And I would tell these kids, like, you got here by being true
who
to
you are.
you know,
Amen.
who you are. And, you know?
That's the only advice I ever have for kids in music is like, once you try to be something that you're not, you better hope you're not successful, because then you got to be that thing you're not for a long time.
That's a great way to put it, man. Yeah, it's living a lie there, huh?
So I read one reason why you chose 75, but I need to hear it from you, because it sounded incredible what I read. What do you got?
Just aesthetics, like symmetrically what looked best with my name on top of it. That was it. Nothing, no brain surgery there.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, because my number was, there was a guy named Chris Benson who pitched at Clemson University, and then he went on to pitch for the Pirates. He was the #1 pick overall in 1996 when I was a senior in high school. So he was coming out of college, and he wore 34 actually for Nolan Ryan, and then I wore 34 for Chris Benson for like 4 or 5 years. And I came to Oakland like, all right, 34, and then they're like, no, it's retired. Raleigh Fingers wore that.
Oh wow, really?
And so I'm like, I don't even know.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, like, well, I'm not going to go 43. Some guys will flip their numbers around.
Yeah, right.
So then I'm like, all right, well, what looks good with that? So it was 57 or 75. That was one of those two.
Yeah, because they have the flat tops.
Yeah, like the top. It's symmetrical, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's all it was.
It's really like artsy of you. I mean, I'm working with a guy writing who's very artistic. He draws all the time. Like a lot of singers end up being comic book writers, and a lot of ball players end up being musicians or magicians. Like it's a crazy thing that our brains do, because what you do as a pitcher is art, but it's physical. So people seem to think of it as more of a sport.
Yeah,
but it's pretty artsy.
I do agree.
When you look at all of it, like you're talking about having form.
Yeah.
All right. One last thing. Who's the last guy you want to see facing you in the batter's box?
You know, it's changed over the years. I would say early in my career, probably Jeter or Ichiro Suzuki. The guy Ichiro just seemed to find the barrel of the bat like every time. Yeah. And then I think later in my career, gosh, who gave me problems? Ryan Ludwig, man. He's giving me problems. He had a home run off me last year in the playoffs in Cincinnati.
He's giving me problems.
And I came up with Ryan, man, with the A's.
I got to talk to you about last year, but I want to get into music first, because that's kind of why I wanted you to do this podcast, because I always ask people to do music. And the way you and I met was you were nice enough to come and play Don't Stop Believing with us at the Fillmore a couple years ago. And you know, you brought your wife, Amber, and you're just such lovely people. I always wanted to get a chance to know more about you, and that's why I do these podcasts, so I can meet people and hang out with them, because I wouldn't normally be able to do that.
That's cool, man.
Music. How big is it in your family? Because when you read about you as a person in like online, music seems to be a much more prominent part of your life than sports? Like as far as being a kid and being raised in a household of what it was.
Yeah, and that is true, I think. My father, he didn't go to school past, I want to say, 10th grade or something. And he was raised in the Bronx, and his parents came over from Italy, and so real old school approach there, just work. And he educated himself musically, and then he, piano player, and then he got a gig to be arranging for Nat King Cole and conducting his band.
That's out of control.
Isn't
man.
that crazy? I know, man.
I mean, do you have any
50s.
idea how great Nat King Cole was?
I mean, dude, I like to think I do, but I really don't. I don't think I could speak
He
to
had
it.
my father, who just passed away a year ago. He was 85. Your father, similar,
Yeah,
right?
he was 84 when he passed
84.
this summer. Yeah.
And he would say, like, there's not a better singer that ever lived. Like, no one could sing like Nat King Cole. The only one that was even close was Ella Fitzgerald. But Nat King Cole to my dad was magic.
Really?
Like, beyond, like, Frank Sinatra and all those guys. Those guys were pop singers. Nat King Cole was,
That's crazy.
he was everything,
Yeah, that was what my father always said, that same thing, that his voice, nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, and he said Nat was actually a jazz piano player, and started singing after that.
Oh, really?
Which is crazy.
Yeah,
So,
that is crazy.
I think about George Benson too. Like, he was a jazz virtuoso guitarist.
When
who
I hear
started
you
singing.
play guitar, you have jazz chords in you. Is that kind of where you come from? Because what inspires you musically, and who are you? While you're inspired by baseball players,
Sure.
but who were you listening to musically that made you want to play guitar?
So I started playing guitar when I signed professionally. When I was 21, I signed at a USC with the A's. And the next year, which was 2000, January, I was like, I'm going to be in hotel rooms, like in very small towns across the country in the
You gotta
minor
have
leagues.
something to do.
I need something to do, because when you're in Midland, Texas,
And you were
there's not.
against prostitution at the time?
Yes, I was. Yes, but currently I'm not
doing prostitution, being part of prostitution.
Yes, the self-promotion prostitution.
I'm going to be in a lot of hotels. I got to get some phone numbers of prostitutions.
Seriously, man.
Anyway.
No, so yeah, it was just out of a necessity to do something.
Right.
And for a lot of guys, it's golf and it's video games, and that stuff's difficult and challenging as well. But for me, I didn't gravitate to golf, and I'm going to do that soon. But so I started playing. I got this Ovation Celebrity, and I started playing. But I think the jazz stuff comes more from my ear, just being around my father, and my mother was a singer with Nat, and my sister, I was in her band for 5 years, and she graduated from Berkeley. So she came back from
Berkeley College or Berkeley School of Music?
Berkeley School of Music.
Oh, wow, cool.
So she went there, she graduated, she came back to LA and said, I'm going to be a songwriter, because she went to school for film scoring. And she said, do you want to be in my band? And I'm like, I've been playing guitar for a year and a half. Like, what do you got for me? Like, I don't know a whole lot. And she starts putting these charts in front of me, and there's like 5, flat 7, sharp 11. And I'm like, what, Sally, what the hell is all this stuff? And that was a crash course into the kind of stuff that I love now. So that's kind of how it started. And Stevie Wonder for me is like probably my number one influence.
Yeah, Stevie Wonder ain't bad.
Man,
I remember Howard Stern interviewed Stevie Wonder and said, hey, man, it says here that you have $50 million. Is that true? and Stevie goes, I hope so.
Oh, that's great.
That's a lot of hits. I hope so.
That's great.
And
tell me that's the number.
You also have a niece who you said she's 16. She's been playing a violin for 14 years or 12 years or something.
Yeah, no, she was just under 2, and they have this thing called the Suzuki method. And, it came across from Asia, and they basically, these kids are 1.5 years old, and they make a violin out of a cardboard box that's like really tiny with a little neck, and they put it under their arm, and the kids waddle out because they're like 1.5 or 2, and they get up in front of the crowd, and then they waddle out, and the crowd cheers, and then they bow, and the crowd cheers again, and then they walk back.
Wow.
I mean, and then they're like slowly being indoctrinated into this. And then she started out with a 1/32 size violin, literally like to scale, like a crazy, and then worked her way up through a 1/4 and half, and now she's 16. She's in like 3 symphonies in the Junior Symphony of San Diego, and
man, dude, don't you find it interesting that music can live far beyond us as human beings. Like your father, your mother, they were musical. It doesn't matter what comes next. It's going to live in their blood. And here is your niece, who she doesn't have a choice. Like it's in her.
It's totally, yeah.
It's a freakish, weird thing, right? And then there are other families that, you know, like I don't know if there's any people on the radio named Mozart right now. Where'd that guy's bloodline go? Like, what happened? You know what I mean? You go like, I didn't get the gene.
Right.
I just like numbers. I don't know.
How many generations is that going to skip before it kicks back in, right?
Yeah.
Like 13 later, the guy shows back up.
Sally Mozart. It's too late, lady.
Oh man, no, I agree.
And so music. So Stevie Wonder, is that the guy that maybe was the most influential musically for you?
Yeah, I think so. Like later, you know, at least in the last 10 years, for me, the first guy that I really freaked out over was Ben Folds. Like,
I was just talking about Ben today because the guy I'm working with is good friends with him.
Is he?
And so my friend, he told me the story. His name is Dan Wilson. He's the singer of Semisonic and a songwriter. And there's a similarness between him and Ben Folds, but Ben texted him yesterday and said, there was a guy in the elevator today insisting I was you. And I said, no, I'm not. And he goes, yep, you are Dan Wilson. And so Ben didn't say, nope, I'm Ben Folds. He's just like, okay.
Totally. That's what he would do.
That's what's so cool about Ben. Like,
man.
he is, that guy's crazy talented.
Oh, he's a monster, man.
Do you know him? Did you ever get the chance to like hang out and see him play?
You know, yeah. Like I used to go see Ben play. So Ben played his first when the band broke up. Ben Folds 5 broke up, and he played his first solo piano show at the Bowery Ballroom in New York. And I remember I flew there by myself.
Really,
watched
you
the
flew
show
from where you were
LA,
playing?
which is where I lived. Yeah, and I flew and I watched him. And you know, he got up on stage and he was doing the Army, you know, with the two parts and the harmony, like da 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 da, like that's what he does. So that show killed. And then he went on this whole like Ben Folds in a piano solo tour.
Yeah.
And I remember I flew to Milwaukee one time to see him like on Water Street in the middle of nowhere. I was alone. I went backstage. It was just me and him hanging out. He's like, yeah, so you came out here for this? I was like, yeah, man. So anyways, I'll be on a flight tomorrow morning. Take care, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
I think that's awesome. Like the same thing, like it's funny. Mark Stepnowski, the guy I mentioned, he ended up doing the same thing with the Black Crowes. So he ended up being really good friends with them after a while because he had flown to so many shows. He would, you know, anytime off that they were close, he would just go check them out because it was important to him.
Oh, wow.
And it's so funny how, I don't know if it's funny or what the connection is between sports and music, but it's very prominent. And it's like athletes want to be closer to music and musicians want to be closer to athletics. Like, I would love to be a pro golfer or a pitcher. I mean, that just sounds like heaven to me. If I could throw, like I told somebody, my friend, there's a guy named John Danks. He's a pitcher, and he is about to get married to my friend Ashley Monroe.
I remember, you mentioned that when we played.
And so I told John, I was like, hey, man, anytime you want me to teach you how to throw a 36-mile-an-hour fastball, I got you. Like,
totally.
How do you throw a ball so fast, man?
You know, it's crazy. It's just it's mechanics, man. I mean, I guess it would be like anything else, you know. I don't know how to relate it to maybe like speed drumming or something like metal. I don't know, but I just feel like when your mechanics are like the levers are in the right place, you know what I mean? It just happens. And
it's repetition, right? You go and go and go and go, and your body just learns how to do it better and better every time.
It just learns, yeah. And you see the difference between guys that like throw 100 and guys that throw like 85, you know what I mean? Like you look at my mechanics, you know, I throw like 85 now. Like, and you see a guy like Craig Kimbrell, you know, or, you know, for Atlanta, and he throws 100, and you can see why. Like if I had a video screen, I'd tell you exactly why. Because it's like a rubber band. His hips are facing the plate, and his whole upper body is twisted completely the other direction. And it's like if you wind up a rubber band super tight. Remember like those helicopter things, like growing up, like, and you wind it and then you let it go, and it just completely comes uncoiled. And it
doesn't necessarily make you a better pitcher, though. Like there's a quote from who was it? Who was talking about your curveball and said, you might as well not even look at it because you ain't going to hit it. Who was that? It was
a Yankee, right?
Yeah, it was a Yankee. Man, I gotta look this up because
Yeah, it's A-Rod, right?
yeah,
Alex,
it was A-Rod. Yeah, he said, man, you might as well not even look at it. I want to get into the World Series and stuff, but can we hear your song now?
Yeah, totally.
And, because I just want people to hear, I think you have a really beautiful voice, and I kind of like your style of music a lot, too. Is everything that you write similar to this vibe that we're about to hear?
Yeah, I think it is, man. It is. I did an EP like 2 years ago, like 4 songs with my buddies, and great guys.
Did you put it on iTunes or anything?
No, I never did, man. I never did because the studio actually, I was going to spring training, and it was my friend Tommy King, who's just unbelievable. He's an unbelievable musician and session player, piano guy, so much. And then my friend Chris Rondanella, and he's got a studio in Burbank. And so we did it, but the studio was booked like right after, and I was going to spring. And so I couldn't quite get exactly how I wanted. And then I just said, you know what, I'm just going to wait. Because I feel like in the baseball world, it can be rigid sometimes. So if you put out like a record or even an EP,
right,
and then like you go out there and you lose a couple games, it's like, oh, he's not focused, you know? And I never wanted that to be the vibe.
Smart.
So,
so you have to be smart in that, in all of this stuff, like, because you're right. It doesn't matter how focused you are. If there's something out there that you did other than baseball, and then you have a bad start or whatever, it's just the first thing everybody's going to go to.
Exactly. And I've already been pinned for that, you know, for surfing or for yoga or some things or whatever, which is all BS anyways. But
which is like part of what makes you a great athlete is doing those other things.
It's like we talked before, like do what got you here, be yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have alienated those parts of me.
Sure.
That really did make me who I was.
Sure.
I
mean, there are some coaches that are like, hey, man, we're doing yoga every Thursday because that's a big part of why this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't, what's his name from the guy who used to coach, Phil, is it Jackson?
Phil Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, Phil Jackson. He used to make the guys on the Lakers do yoga. That's what I heard.
Yeah. And
it made them win championships, or it helped. It got them prepared in ways that other teams weren't prepared.
Yeah, it's totally,
and
it's a mind-body
surfing is
thing.
like magic. I mean, that's
dude.
like...
It's like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. It's anyway, we got a lot to talk about, but let me hear you. Cool. If you don't mind, I'd like to sing your second chorus.
Oh yeah, man!
I will try to sing it slightly sharp so that you sound incredible compared to me.
Thank you so much. That's a great one.
So this is called The Loneliness.
This is called This Loneliness, man.
Oh, This Loneliness. Okay, got it.
This is just about like when you're in the entertainment field, whether it's music or baseball or anything. You know, people think you have this life, and you're like around these girls, and you have it all made, and then. Okay, so many times you'll find yourself in a room of people and you're just alone, man. You just want to share like authentic things with somebody, and you don't really get that. You don't get to do that. And hey, you know, it's a great life, and don't get me wrong, but sometimes you just kind of want to like get over that and move on to a deeper something more challenging, you know, relationship wise. So
yeah, definitely it creates a whole lot of topical relationships and very, very few, if any, big, lifelong, meaningful ones. And it's sad and lonely, but like you said, it's not a life that you'd probably trade. You know, you just gotta know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And now being on the other side of it and having a wife and stuff, like, wow, I never could have imagined the greatness that it can bring to your heart, you know, and risk and reward, you know. It takes balls to get up there and be like, I'm doing this forever. Yep. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think like there's a safety in being single too, that, you know, I see that and still in my friends and stuff. So
yeah.
But yeah, this is called This Loneliness. So.
Traveling across all of the world, just looking for you, and I've been struggling around these ill-intentioned girls. They got nothing on you. Carry a picture in my mind.
You're the one I'm gonna find. And I can't stand this loneliness. I've tried everything that I can try to fill the empty space inside. And I can't stand the thought that it's gonna happen when I least expect it. I knew it all, but now I stand corrected. I've been battling all these demons of mine. They keep telling me lies that I'll keep straggling, limping alone through my life. Lord, let them be lies. Carry a picture in my mind. You're the one I've got to find.
I can't stand this loneliness. I've tried everything a man can try to fill the empty space inside. And I can't stand the thought that it's gonna happen when I least expect it. I need a new perspective. Life's funny, 'cause when you think you got it down, you get it all wrong. So sitting back and relax and just enjoy the ride as it pulls you along, yeah. So I'll be okay with this loneliness. I sit back and watch the clouds go by and feel the peace and calm inside. I'm gonna trust the fact that it's gonna happen when I least expect it. I'm wiser now 'cause I've been corrected.
Nice, dude.
Nice.
You have a great voice, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
That's nice. You sing like you surf and do yoga. You know what I mean? Like there's a calm thing that comes with your voice that sounds like that part of the world. I mean, all we are is bits and pieces of all of that stuff anyway.
Isn't that
you know?
funny? Yeah. No, yeah. You know, it's funny because I guess like we were talking about again, to refer it again, but just whatever it is, like this is who I am. This is what it is.
Right.
And you know, that's something that I just try to remember every day. And
right.
Now, you know, getting to surf a lot. I wasn't able to surf under this last contract, so now this contract just, you know, ended kind of. So I'm surfing all the time, and I'm like, oh, that's right. I remember this. This is who I am right here.
Okay, so if we're gonna get, I'd love to ask you about this. Can I talk about this stuff? Because I think that's you're living in San Diego temporarily, but you really live in LA, right?
Yeah.
And in San Francisco, your contract is up.
Yeah.
You put a full page ad in the newspaper the other day.
Yeah.
The classiest thing you could ever do, just to say thank you, San Francisco. Like, man, thank you as a San Francisco guy and a fan of the Giants, man. I was in London during last year's World Series.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't watch the game. I couldn't watch any of the games. And you were the one guy that turned the series around before the World Series. Because I got to hear, we were in the UK for like 2 weeks, so it was during the National League Championship playoffs and then the World Series that went very quickly. But there was a moment where something big had to happen or the Giants were just going to go home. And that something big was you. Like,
that's
you
crazy.
turned the shit around, dude. I bragged to everybody in the UK that you and I were on stage together. I was like, that's my boy. You know what?
great.
It was
That's so awesome.
It's so incredible what you did because I don't know, like, when you guys get together, how much you believe in yourself or how much fans believe in you or how much the coach believes in you or any of that, because it's all so who knows what kind of year you had, and you know, you have a certain amount of pitchers, and you've built this team, and you go like, okay, well, we got to put Larry in today because we don't have any choice.
Yeah.
Or if they're like, we know Barry can get us through this game, and he's the only guy that can do it. Or if it's just your day, it's your day or whatever. How does that work? And how did you? Because it was like the moment.
It was totally the moment, man. I mean, that was like the apex of this, like my whole life in 1 3 hour.
Yeah.
It was so gnarly, man. It was super out of body. And the way that it culminated really was very odd. So, you know, I'd been pitching for 6 years as a Giant and had never pitched in the playoffs because, you know, I missed the playoffs in 2010, right?
You were injured, right?
No. They didn't put me on the roster because I was struggling. Like in August and September, I was really struggling, having a tough time. So I sat there and I watched the team win the World Series, like my childhood dream. But like I'm on the sidelines, so that was a crushing. Every day going to the field was
man.
Just
I
crazy.
didn't know that. Yeah, that's a crusher.
So that was a crusher. But there was good that came out of it because it was like, all right, World Series, like I just saw my boys do it. It's like, it's not that big, you know what I mean? Like it helped me also just be like, okay, this is this thing I've immortalized, but I realized that all my friends and my peers have done it and guys on my team. So then, you know, I went to pitch in my first playoff game, which was in Cincinnati, and in the first series, and I put so much pressure on myself, like now I'm going to prove that I just like can win a playoff game because I've had a great playoff record as an Oakland A, right? So then, you know, flubbed it, pitched a couple innings, gave up a homer to this dude I mentioned earlier, Ryan Ludwig. And,
hate that guy.
Hate that guy. Love that guy. Hate that guy. And then, so that was it, you know, and essentially, you know, I didn't think I was going to get a chance to start again, you know, if we went and went to the next round. And so one of our starters, Bumgarner, had a rough start. In one of the first couple games versus St. Louis in the next round. And I remember me and Timmy Lincecum, we were sitting next to each other in our lockers in St. Louis. And, you know, it was the night before the game 3. And, you know, it was a workout night. And then the pitching coach, Righetti, comes up and he points to Timmy and me. And he goes, all right, game 4, game 5, you know, if we get there. And then whatever. And I'm like, you know, I went around the corner and I was like, bowed to my knee. I was like, thank you, God, like for this opportunity. Like I prayed for this with my wife so much. Like, I just want another chance to do it right instead of try to prove that I'm anything. Just for me to say, just go out and give everything
just for
you got.
Yeah, totally.
Just do it. Do your best. And if you suck, that's fine. But just do your best, you know? And I didn't allow myself to do that the last time.
Right.
And that was my only focus, man, in that game.
How did you zen out for that? Because I know that, like, I know that kind of, I need to do that. Like, before I sing every night, I have to meditate and go through. It can be a 3-minute meditation or a 20-minute meditation, but I have to do it, or it's not. I can't take the mound. You know what I mean? What were your moments before you went out there and started throwing a ball?
For me, it was, I didn't turn my phone on the whole day. Like I was just in the hotel in St. Louis, in the Westin, you know, right across the street. Been there a million times, playing the Cardinals, like all that. And, you know, me and Amber were just hanging out and no phone, nothing. And, you know, just watching TV, listening to music, chilling out. We didn't talk much about it. I mean, both of us knew it was like, holy crap. Like, we're, you know, St. Louis just seems to have this crazy X factor. Like they just keep
this year,
figuring it out.
It's crazy.
They just keep figuring it out.
Every year they're either in it or they just missed it.
Oh yeah. They just have this thing. It's like otherworldly. So, you know, I was like, you know, I just want to go out there and do my best, and I'm okay with losing and everything else. That's fine if I can just do this and, you know, get out there and go through it all. And was kind of meditating out there, almost like breathing really slow and methodical the whole game and in between innings. And, you know, after it was all over, I kind of looked over at my wife and I was like, did that just happen? Oh my gosh. And then she's like, oh, I got to tell you about all this rally Zito, blah, 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 Twitter. Like,
it's nuts,
you know,
man.
all this crazy thing. Thank God I didn't turn my phone on because, you know, I would have got wind of this at some point, but I didn't hear one thing about it until after the game. So
speaking of phones, man, for people who aren't here, you can't see Barry's phone is a debacle. It's a mess of a phone. What is that? Like a 1997, like Sidekick or something? What is that? It's all broken.
It's a Droid 3. It's probably circa 82 when the first Macintosh came out.
Yeah, it's a terrible phone. They need to get rid of it. Tomorrow we're gonna go somewhere and get you a phone.
It's you know
the
what's
glass
funny?
is broken.
I was waiting for so since I got married, I've become very like not frugal, but I think about money now. Like I just think I shouldn't buy this. I don't need it. But before I was like, I'm rich. I'll buy what I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, like my private jet usage has gone to like 1%.
Right.
My jet guy's probably like, dude, what happened to you? Did you die?
You're hurting my feelings.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? And then like, he's a good friend of mine too. And then like, so, I mean, I was waiting all year till July for my upgrade, you know, because I didn't just want to buy a phone outright.
Man,
I wanted to get a free phone.
that you're going to get a private jet ever.
Yeah.
But you're going to wait for your upgrade.
Yeah. And
It's
now July is
incredible.
like long gone in the past, and I still got this crack piece of crap.
I have got to take a picture of that phone before you leave because it's incredible.
It is. It's like an old VCR or something, man.
And so, that game was so magical for fans of the game because we knew, like, we were like, Barry turned the city around. Like, you turned the team around. That moment wasn't just yours. It was like I'm getting chills thinking about it was when everybody was like, wait, we can do this. That guy just kicked their ass. What happened?
That's crazy.
And it was the moment then from that point on, you guys were unstoppable. It was one after another massive thing for the Giants, and no one could stop it. And then you went into the World Series, and you won, what was it, the second game?
First game.
You won the first game, and then that was like another trend because then you didn't lose, you swept the series.
That was killer. That momentum, you're right. Like the momentum when we brought it back to our fans in San Fran, I mean, we knew.
So big, dude.
We knew on the plane that night when we flew back, like, this series is over. These guys are going to crumble because our fans are so gnarly at home.
Right.
Which, by the way, is in San Francisco, we didn't have a home field advantage like that until about like 2010.
Really?
You know what I mean? San Francisco was always kind of like a very like mellow kind of, they had the vibe of like the kind of the corporate crowd, like just opposing teams when I was with the A's, and we'd come over and, they were into it, but they didn't have this like fear factor. And now like visiting teams, they come in there and they're like, nah, dude, like I want to get out of here. Like I'll be happy if we win one game out of like 3 or 4 and just let's go home. Yeah. Because 2010, it turned into some other kind of animal, man.
Yeah. Cause, if you ever go to an Oakland Raiders game, you want to leave. Even if you're a Raiders fan, you're like, I got to get out of here. These people are insane.
Yeah.
But that's completely what's magical about it.
Oh, that's the coolest part. Yeah. And watching that transformation of like, because the A's fans always had the rep for being the crazy fans. And then all of a sudden, like the Giants fans were turned into the crazies, and they had the panda hats and like, all the beard and like all the crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it was like, dude, like the whole thing just flipped.
Right.
Yeah. And it was so great to be a part of that.
When you win, you start to think that you can do shit like that. Like I can dress up
like anything,
like an ape, and I can paint my, you know what I mean? You start thinking because we're winning, and then you start thinking the ape outfit, we won that game. I got to wear it this week.
Oh yeah, and that's the beauty of being a fan. Is
are you a fan of things like that? Are you a fan of football or anything that you get all jacked up and you wear a certain jersey, watch it on Sunday or anything?
Gosh, no, man. I never was like a super sports fan, but I'll tell you, fantasy football has got me rocking like on Sundays. Like I'm super into it. Yeah, and I have my
you are all the MLB guys. It's like it's really should be, I think, a reality TV show because the MLB
that's a great
guys
concept.
Are obsessed with, like Ashley, as I said about John.
Yeah.
She was like, honey, I'm only home for 3 days because I'm on tour now, and then I got to go back out on tour. And he was like, oh baby, we got draft pick on
everything else. Yeah,
we're gonna have to go to the hotel, and she's like, yeah, it's cool, don't worry, because it's a big deal for you guys. It's so
huge.
funny.
It's like the fantasy draft is like 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah,
and you're on the road inevitably. Like we did ours in San Diego. We were at the hotel across the stadium, across from the stadium, and. Sergio Romo rented out like the back room, and we got chicken fingers and like Bud Light, and like it's a whole party, and it's cool. Yeah. It's like you and your boys, and you're just doing your draft pick, and dude, it's like such a camaraderie thing.
Yeah,
and then
so
all the
fun,
trash talking.
It's so
If I was a professional baseball player, I would play fantasy baseball and I would draft myself every
Dude,
do that?
I think that's like some form of Pete Rose, isn't it? I mean, there's like some kind of
Man, poor
infraction.
Pete Rose, man. That poor guy.
Crazy,
So,
right?
Because I don't want to keep you forever, and I still have other things to ask you. Can I run through another
whatever,
very
man.
short list of things, and then I'm going to get to my wife's questions, and then then you can bail. So these are some questions, and I'll try to be brief, but these are for like big fans of baseball. You were taken by the Mariners, right?
Yeah.
On the 59th round.
Yep.
In 1996, and then you said no. And then in 98, 2 years later, right, you're taken by, was it Texas? And you said no. Is this because you're still playing college ball?
Yeah. Yep. With Texas, I was at a junior college here in LA called LA Pierce, and I got drafted.
But you
there.
just had the confidence to say no.
You know, my dad, he really, he kind of led me, and he always helped me feel confident about what I could accomplish. So I was in the third round, which was pretty darn good. They offered me $287,500. I still remember this, and we wanted $350,000. And if they didn't get to that number, we weren't going to go. And when I say we, it was like me and my dad were.
Yeah.
Gonna, I was 19, and so I said no, and I went and pitched in college summer ball, whatever. So he said, we're going back to USC, and we want to go in the first round. And you should have heard the scouts, what they said.
And you did.
Oh, you think you can blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Really?
You're throwing 88 to 90 miles an hour. You think you go in the first round? We're like, hey, let's just try. You know? So it worked out, man. My dad, he had something going on, man. It was
Wow, he
amazing.
really did. That's cool.
Yeah. So,
there's there's a negative term when your parent gets involved with your music career. You call them a momager.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And it's not
funny. I never
looked
heard
highly at.
I bet.
But some parents know what they're talking about. And I think like you're friends with my friend Doug Hendrickson.
Yeah.
Was he your agent?
No, actually, I met Doug through a mutual friend.
Because he does NFL players only, I think, right? But his agency probably handles baseball players.
Yeah, I think they do have a baseball arm as well, a baseball side of their.
And so when I read stories about Doug as an agent, he handles things like a parent, where he's told guys they got to take their Bentley back, and you can't buy that because that's a terrible idea, and you can't think of this like this is going to happen forever. And I think that's a lovely thing to do for these kids because they're young and they really think that it's going to last forever.
And the way Doug goes about it is so amazing because some of the guys that he represents, unfortunately, they don't have like parental figures. It's not a strong point in their lives, and so he does have to fill that gap, which is so huge. And I think that's what makes him special. Not a lot of agents take those.
Well,
positions.
I think a lot of agents are like, I can get you the most money.
Yeah.
I've done it repeatedly, and it's like winning the lottery. You can't take the foolishness out of the person just because you've filled their pockets.
No.
Like you're just going to make bigger mistakes than you would have, without the money.
Yeah, more public mistakes too.
So, okay. When you did break in, you had a great staff of young guys with Hudson and Mulder. Mm-hmm. What was the competition among the three of you like, if there was any? Was it positive? Did it help you?
Yeah, so it's funny because it was me and these two guys. Then they called us the Big Three, and because we were three young guys, all kind of under 25, that were being substantial contributors to the team. And I was 22, Mulder was 23, and Hudson was 25. And that was when I came up. And Mulder was a Midwest guy from Chicago, 6'6", gorgeous guy. I mean, guy would walk in and the girls would like drop their glasses in their jaw together, like looking over at this guy. And, I was like used to kind of like being kind of like popular. So I'd walk in and then I'd look at the girls and then I'd think they were looking at me, but when I'd really look at them, they were actually looking just to my left, which is where he was, and a little bit up because he was taller, And so I was like, wow, So he was kind of we would get on and be like, call him the cool daddy-o. He was always too cool for stuff. And then Hudson was the down-home country boy from Alabama,
right?
Just a Spitfire bulldog.
Right.
Went to Auburn, broke Frank Thomas's records over there.
Wow.
And then
you guys were serious.
Yeah. And then I was kind of like the surfer yoga-ish kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I always got a bunch of slack. Everyone was like, "Are you gay?" or like whatever. I was like, "Why? Like what?" Because I do yoga and stuff, and you know,
But I like girls too.
yeah, I was like, whatever, man. Like I wear funky clothes, and yeah. So there was like comic strips about me, like that I was gay, and I had to come out at one point, and so there was a lot of funny drama.
I'm gay still. In fact, here's my gay story. Do you know what's his name? Who sings "I Want to Be Your Hero, Baby"?
Oh yeah, Enrique.
Enrique.
Yeah.
So Enrique is a lovely, and he's a really beautiful man, right? He's a lovely looking creature.
He sure is.
So we do a Christmas radio thing together. Here, man. Here.
Oh yeah. Oh, thanks, bud. Full service.
So we're backstage, and he comes in, and we start to talk because we met one other time, and we talked about when we met and talked in London, and he's like, "So you're gay, right? You're married to a man?" And I was like, "That's amazing, man." No, but I wished it was true, just because it's an incredible addition to the career. You know, so that was my.
That's
so
great.
yeah, you're not alone. I think that's a sign of, on some level, you are sensitive and you're not a big, chauvinistic kind of, I gotta get laid all the time type of fella. And
That's
so if
it.
you're not out chasing all the time, then you're gay.
That's totally it. I told my wife, I mean, it's a funny joke because we redid our house here in a little bit, and with the design, and you know, I love, like, I mean, I don't have it wearing, but sometimes I like to go out and wear some funky stuff, like look like Eddie Haskell or something. And then I'll make a joke, and you know, she'll tell her friends, she's like, "Oh yeah, he's so sensitive." And I'm like, everything but liking penis, like I'm straight gay for sure. Like, you know, everything but the penis part. But like fashion, design,
Me
music,
too. I
would
way rather go shopping for purses than working on the lawn.
Right?
Like, hey, you man, leave that to a gardener, man. Let's go find some, Prada.
Yeah, dude. Oh man.
So Game 5, 2012 NLC game. Is that the best game you ever pitched?
Yeah, the St. Louis game?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Just considering all, you know, the circumstances.
Yeah, and you
all
really, like, their momentum was powerful. And it had to be stopped.
Yep. No, it really
Yeah.
was. Yeah. I pitched a couple big ones in my career in the playoffs, but that one for sure was, you know, it was a hinging kind of game. So, and the fact that it ended like it did with a sweep in the World Series, you know, you could kind of look back on it and say that too. So,
Right. Well, the next question is similar. So, you're known as an artist. You're creative, well-rounded guy. Baseball clubhouses are known for their creative pranks. That said, what's the most artistic, creative clubhouse prank you've ever pulled or had pulled?
wow. Oh man. Man, there's a great one. There was this guy, and I don't know how artistic or creative it is, but it was a funny prank that we had whenever we'd go out. And I can't say his name, unfortunately, but he was a relief pitcher with the A's in the early days. And we would go out to these different, you know, obviously we're going to places across the country. And this guy was gifted below the belt, okay? and also in his right arm. And so the prank was, he'd be standing there in the bar kind of unassuming, and I would have to go up to a girl of my choice, which was fun, to ask her, say, "Hey, do you know what time it is?" And this is kind of before everyone had a cell phone. This is probably like 2000,
Sure.
2001. "No, I don't know. What about that guy?" And he'd be right there, and she'd be like, "Oh, excuse me, do you know what time it is?" And he would wrap
his schwanz around his wrist.
and he'd look down and be like, "Oh, I don't know, let me see." And she'd like, "Oh, okay." And she'd look down, and then like 2 seconds later, she'd freak out. You know what I mean? And that was just like the most fun thing every time. It was like fresh every time. It never got old.
I love that you say he's very talented below the belt. All right, so you're a philanthropist. You founded Strikeouts for Troops in 2005, a national nonprofit that provides comfort of homes and lifts the spirits of and morale of injured troops, as well as offers support to military families. This is what, you know, it's super awesome that you. So Strikeouts for Troops is supported by over 100 MLB players, coaches, managers, athletes, and part of that was what led to your 2012 Hutch Award, which is given to the MLB player who best exemplifies courage, dedication, and honor. So what have you guys been doing this season to assist families? We see emotional reunions between servicemen and women at sport events. Is that kind of stuff that you guys do? And what do you guys do on the off season? And how do the events inspire you as an athlete or an artist who writes songs?
Yeah, so what we started this thing for the troops back when it wasn't as popular as it is now, and it's just awesome that this support the troops and the veterans is like really, that's like becoming mainstream now, which has been the dream for me, and I know a lot of other people, because people couldn't separate the war from the troops. You know what I mean? They're volunteering and they're going out there.
Sure.
But people were so opposed to the war in 03 and 04, 05. So now people are realizing that it's two separate things, which is great. And so what we do is we provide what we call the comforts of home. And when these men and women come back, and most of them come back, they get blown up when they're from the IEDs. You know what I mean? The improvised explosive device. You know what I mean? But either they step on them, they drive over them in the Hummers. So this is what so many of the injuries are from. And they come back and, we use these monies to give grants to fly out the mother or of their 20-year-old son, or fly out the wife and the newborn baby from like a small town in New Mexico, and they can't afford to like get out there themselves. And we just provide, we call it the comforts of home, because we're bringing the loved ones near to the bedside.
Yeah, that's cool.
We all know we recover better when mom's by the bed, or a wife, or
of course,
so that's a big thing.
A lot of these, they don't have wives yet; they're just children.
Yeah, most of it's their mom, their grandma,
right?
So that's and it's so rewarding for me to meet these men and women too, because their spirit is like so alive, and it's just thriving. You would think that they would really be beat down mentally, and of course, inevitably some of them are, but I'd say most of them are like, you know what? Yeah, I'm good. I lost both my legs, but I'm good. I mean, I'm fighting, and I get down, I get depressed every now and then, but I got a lot to be thankful for and be grateful for. And I mean, it's just so inspiring to get around them. And
it makes all of our complaints about little things in our lives just so petty.
Right.
They are very powerful reminders. Our charity as Train and myself, our charity is called the Family House in San Francisco, and that's it's not a war-based thing, but it's for kids that are fighting their own war with mostly terminal, cancer, and they have to go to a hospital in San Francisco because that's where they have a lot of expertise in that area, and so Family House provides housing for these sick kids and their families, and they're all, low to no income families. I mean, people are struggling financially, and then they get this burden. And the same thing is with military. Like, a lot of people join the military because they don't have a lot of options, or because they need money, or because that's what they want their career to be. And then they end up getting, terminally hurt, or they get hurt enough to alter their lives in a very negative way. And then their families have to think about how they're going to make money in the future. And so many other things come with it, that what you and I deal with is so small that it feels like uncomfortable to complain, even if you're like, I can't believe that waitress brought the wrong, you go like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Right.
But it's great to be involved with that stuff. I have a lot of respect for you that you do that.
That's cool, man. Well, thank you. And likewise, the Family House, that's awesome, man.
It's just in the Bay Area, like, you have to feel something positive there, right? Like regardless of where you'll end up. Will you play ball this year?
I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to do, man. I'm just taking a step back. 7 years, it was a long 7 years. Lot went on, like I took out that ad in the Chronicle just to, I lost both my parents. I got married.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff went on personally. So right now I'm just kind of taking a step back. I'm not my body's still healthy. I'm still inspired and love the game. I'm just not sure. I mean, we're a few weeks out after the season, and that's the beauty is I have some time to think about it.
Right.
I'm just enjoying surfing and
you'll write songs, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be what. Do you think that you're going to be a songwriter? This is maybe the future for you.
I mean, there's definitely like a dream in there somewhere to, be a songwriter and make money on the publishing side.
You have to put the same amount of hours in as you did your arm.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. And you already have. You've played in your hotel room. But if you're going to write songs, it really is a numbers game. At some point, you have after your 10,000 hours, you start to understand. And the same thing with pitching. You had to have pitched for thousands and thousands of hours.
Yeah.
And man, at some point your body just knows and you become a pro.
Yeah, it's a great point, man. The 10,000, the mastery thing. That is, I mean, that's it. I mean, I would love to just sit in a room and write songs and record on a tiny little rig and just, like you said, keep sharpening the tool,
Yeah, I think that guys like you who don't take what you've accomplished for granted and you pass it along to people that can use your help is just like the essence of all of this stuff. Like I've seen a lot of ball players sign or not sign little kids, baseballs or jerseys. And to me, like if you don't do it, you have a character flaw. Because your job is taking care of that kid and making sure that he wants to play baseball and love baseball and love you. The fun is you get to pitch. You know what I mean? It's like, I get to sing. That's so fun. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But my job is to take care of the people who like what I do. It's a very simple strategy. And then for you to take care of all of these families and help them out is just a really commendable thing. And sometimes maybe you don't hear it, but you should be complimented. It's a big part of who you are as a person. And when you're around Barry Zito, you see like this guy's not just a pitcher; he's a really great person, and you should be told that. And so I'm telling you that.
Thank you so much, Pat. I really appreciate that, man.
And so now I'm going to get to my wife's questions.
Yes.
Number one, are you gay? No, I'm kidding. She didn't ask. I
thought we covered that maybe 10 minutes ago.
We covered that. Sorry, baby. We covered that. Actually, she always wants to know how people meet their spouse.
Yeah. Wow. This is a funny one. So I was living in LA in 2008, my home. I bought a home here in 2003. And Brian Wilson, who was the famous closer for the Giants.
Yeah.
I was newly single, and I said, come down to LA, live with me in my house. We'll go totally ape shit and just have a great time in Hollywood. Yeah. And so we were in that single phase, and we were at a Madonna concert, and randomly.
Wait, this isn't helping the gay
back to the
image
first
at
question. You're like, you don't have a leg to stand on, buddy.
Hey now.
So it was my friend Drew McCourt, whose father used to own the Dodgers. So I actually met Drew that night, and we were in his box, luxury box. And another friend of mine called me and texted me randomly, this guy that I'd known for years. And he said, come to this luxury box. We're watching Madonna from the box. But when you're in the luxury box, you're not really watching the show, like way out on the field.
Yeah.
And this guy came in, and he had a bunch of these models with him, because there was always like the model wrangler guy, that was like, hey, ring Sasha, what a great guy. So anyways, I met her that night, and I was just friends with her after that. Nothing else happened. You know what I mean? It was a very platonic situation. I never even saw her. I think I saw her one time, and then she had just broken up with her boyfriend like a year and a half later, and I said, come see me pitch against the Cardinals, which was her home team. She's from Missouri. And of course I thought she was gonna be like, no, because she blew me off, before. And
sure,
she came up and sparks flew, and that was it. And we were engaged a year later. So
yeah, that's so cool, man.
Yeah. So it was it, man.
I love that. So as you've traveled on a baseball team, what's your best tour find? What's the best thing you've found out there that you're like, man, that little hideaway, I can't wait to go eat there or buy a record there or whatever the thing is?
Oh man, gosh. There's so many good, dude, Seattle, like, I just love Seattle.
Me too, man.
Like, that's such a hang there, man. There used to be this bar called Swanee's, back in the day, and it was kind of on the south side of downtown, like maybe like halfway to the ballpark.
Okay.
And I think it's shut down now. And there was a comedy club downstairs. And so when 2 o'clock rolled around,
Yeah.
the whole place would shut down, but yet the whole party got moved downstairs to the comedy club. And then it was like, whoop. So that was
man.
definitely like the late night hang,
Oh, that sounds
like early
fun.
in my career.
And that's
man.
not there anymore?
No, I think it's shut
that
down.
stinks.
But that was like the coolest spot in the league, though, man.
That's all the ball players knew about it.
Oh,
huh?
all the American League guys knew. Yeah, everyone
that's-
would come through there. Like all the ball players would come through there.
that's so fun.
Yeah.
What are you a fan of? What's the thing that you're passionate about right now? An artist or anything? A chef? Like something that you're a big fan of? A computer system? A software company?
Yeah, anything. Gosh, what's crazy is I'm just getting into like managing like all the different moving parts that are, my business life, like, you make like a good amount of money, but you just kind of don't really know what's going on. And then
Sure.
you're just like paying guys to tell you what's going on. And
Sure.
so I'm like really jumping into all that. And
cool.
And so I've found that I have like the highest respect for these hedge fund people that literally like their whole life is like looking at 6 computer screens and like stocks, and they're getting in, they're getting out, and they're making crazy money just based on their intuition,
Right.
their intuition of when to buy and when not to. I mean, like that is something so far beyond my comprehension. So
Yeah,
that's like blowing me
a
away.
friend of mine who I shouldn't say who he is, but he was like, he told Pergo the other day, he was like, man, you think I'm in the right business? My wife, she works for a hedge fund company. She makes what I make look like tip money.
Really? Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, man, it's crazy when they do it right. Oh, it's like a windfall, man.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
So I don't want to talk about pitching because I think that music is going to be something that you can die doing, or at least I should say live for the rest of your life and continue to do. Why do you do music? What is the connection that you feel that you're kind of compelled? Because I always ask musicians, like, why are you doing this? It's not fun. For the most part, you're never home. You don't get to be with the people you want to be with. Like, there's a lot of negatives. So you have to have a massive, like, pinpoint amount of joy that comes with it to want to continue to do it.
Yeah, gosh, I think it's almost in the way it's totally opposite of my day job, because with baseball, I mean, you could go out there and you could throw a no-hitter, or you could go out there and do something so magnificent, but you still kind of know what that is. It's a shutout, or it's a this, or it's a winning World Series, and thank God I know what that is at this point.
Sure.
But you kind of know what that's going to be. It's always going to fall into this structure. But with music, I feel like if you're writing a song, it could go anywhere. You don't know what it is. You don't even know. It starts out with a couple chords and like a line falls out of your mouth.
Nothing.
And yeah, and then it's just so, it could be anything on any different day. And
Yeah.
I think that's for me what it is like, yeah, I wrote this song where I was like super mad at baseball. I actually wrote it this summer. And like, it turned out to be like this, wow, what the hell was that? It came out after, and I look back and things like that, where it just became some beautiful thing that was created out of nothing.
Right.
And that's not something I've ever been used to in
It's like
sport.
therapy sessions. So like you can maybe save money
Yeah.
on a counselor because you can write songs about it. It really does help.
That's totally what it is, man. Therapy.
A standout moment that led you here. Is there a moment that somebody said, I think you have the potential, or somebody who said, you're not that good? Like, we all as musicians have either a parent that said, you can do it, honey, or you're no good at that shit. You need to get a job, like that thing that motivates you.
Yeah. For me, that moment, I think it was when I really realized that I probably had a shot, was when I was a senior in high school in San Diego. I was throwing like 81, 82 miles an hour. And I got
insane,
drafted.
man.
I got drafted by the 59th round by Seattle. A guy named Craig Weissman, and he said, "Listen,
Right out of high school?
Out of high school, yeah. But it was the 59th round. Like,
Who cares?
They don't even have 59 rounds now. They ended at 50. I mean, that's what the 59th round is.
That's so funny.
So this guy Craig drafted me so he could like work with me, and there was a possibility I would sign, of course. But he changed my mechanics around, and literally 8 months later, I was throwing 93.
Whoa!
And I was like, what the hell? Like, I've always dreamed of throwing 93, and now I knew I got a chance to go because I'm left-handed. And from that point, that was when I realized, and the other stuff, I was never motivated out of like, I'm going to prove this dude wrong.
What's the fastest pitch you ever threw?
I think it was in college that next year when I was a freshman at UC Santa Barbara. It was like 95, I heard.
That's insane. Man.
Yeah, so that was it, man. When why would I have gained 10 mile an hour, Okay, there's got to be a greater purpose for this.
Yeah, that's nuts. Okay, two more things. Yeah. What's next for you? What do you, obviously you're going to just wait and chill and see things out, but like, how about for your charity and for some of the events that you might have coming up? Yeah, so, right now I'm doing a lot of kind of whiteboard search and kind of just, getting the whole thing up on a whiteboard or just in front of me on a piece of paper. What am I passionate about? What do I love? From the philanthropic side, the troops is definitely, there's so many things that my wife and I want to get behind, and, unconditional love. You're loved not for who you are, not for what you do, but you're, not for who you are in the world, but for who you are as a person. Those kind of things that I've dealt with in my life, where I felt like my identity was so tied to a performance or to what I've, how efficient I've been today or what I achieved, and feeling worthless if I had a bad day. Right? Yeah, right.
So there's got to be something to that. You know what I mean? Like, we want to get behind some things like that, real core soul level stuff that I think could help a lot of people. So, I don't really know yet, but something like that.
And then the last thing is, how do people find out more about you as whatever you want them to know? Like, do you have Twitter and do you have websites that are your own, or charity websites, or anything else that you want to send people to?
I feel like it's funny because we talked earlier in the show, and I feel like I had a ego problem. As much as I never felt driven by ego, I felt like in a certain way I started to get a little too happy with the fact that people were kind of like into me. And so now I don't have any social media. I have no Twitter. I had a website years ago. I shut it down. I was on Twitter for like, when it started back in December of 2008, I was on it for 2 months, and then I hit the inbox and like wanted to like start crying because people were just mother effing me like left and right. And then I was like, I don't need this stress in my life. Like, I'm crazy. Voluntarily reading this now. You know what I mean? So at some point I'm going to kind of get back out there to connect, but yeah, man.
Not right now. My friend Dan Wilson was telling me today, he was like, I have a Twitter account that I have like 20,000 people that follow me. And he's like, when you're at 20,000, they're basically people who like you. Yeah. When you get bigger than that, when you're in the 100,000 or million, I'd say that half of those people really hate you, or they're looking for they are looking for an avenue to anonymously hate you.
That's a great way to put it, man.
It's pretty true.
Yeah.
So if you start something that maybe the intention is, hey, if you want to do something really cool, come to Barry Zito and Amber Zito, .com, whatever, so you can see about our charity, you're probably going to get way less people that are going to visit you.
Sure.
But they're going to have the right intention, because you're sending them to something that is about, you're not pitching for. You're not gonna be like, hey, tell me what you thought of my game today.
Yeah. We got an open comments box for everyone here. You know what I mean?
Open comments box. I'll tell you one thing: you lost, you prick. I had $7,000. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and, dude.
Anyway,
that's a great point.
I'm so grateful that you did this. I think athletes, there's I think a lot of the parts of athletes get missed because we just watch you do a physical thing all the time, and you can categorize it and you can put it in a compartment and you go like, oh, that guy does this and that guy does that. But we rarely find out really what makes an athlete do what he does or she does. And so I appreciate you doing this. Does
Yeah.
getting to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame matter to you? Is it something that you think would enhance your life?
It's a good question, man. Because all growing up, when I was a kid, it was my dad was like, Hall of Fame, and go out there, win 300 games, which is a kind of a benchmark for Hall of Fame.
How many games have you won?
I've won 165 games, and which is crazy. I don't think 300 games is going to be done anymore. The way that pitching, I think 250 games at some point will become the benchmark.
I think
we're not
you're
there
right.
yet, but yeah. So it's funny because like back to the identity thing. It's like, well, my dad just passed this summer, but it's like, well, am I now a failure because I didn't win 300 games? And my dad this and that. So I don't know. Hall of Fame. What I realize at this point is that if I was ever to make the Hall of Fame, it wouldn't give me what I project upon it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could be the same happiness right now as if I never won another game. But I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I'm taking a step back and really reevaluating a lot of things. But that is something that I thought I was on. I was on pace for that actually the first kind of 6-7 years of my career. So I was going that direction, and then I feel like there was other plans for me, whatever reason. It's not like I stopped trying.
Yeah.
Things just kind of went other ways. But man, I've accrued a lot of hard-earned wisdom through that stuff. So
right, I bet.
I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, man. I know a lot of people who have struggled with cancer and different illnesses, and when they recover, and you ask them, how would you define that that moment or that thing or that disease, and they all answer the same way. It's a gift. And I go like, whoa. And they say, I wouldn't have met the people in my life. I wouldn't feel the way I do right now. I wouldn't appreciate what I appreciate. Food wouldn't taste so delicious. Like the things that when you're kicked in the, when you're punished for some reason by life, you realize how grateful you are for the moments that are so easy and good and like, man, whoa, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this a little better.
That's great. Like, so well put. The appreciation, like you said, you would not appreciate.
Well, I think no one took out a full-page ad in San Francisco after you took a full-page ad out, so I will speak for San Francisco and say, dude, thank you so much for some great years. For we all got to watch you while you were going through good times and bad times, and for us, watching you take us to a winning World Series and all those great things. Those were joyous moments that we got to celebrate with our families and kids and high five people while. You may have been going through whatever emotionally, and you don't have your fans going, "Hey Barry, thanks." Not like a genuine thank you, but you've created a lot of really wonderful moments for families, and I think that. Cool. So thanks, man, from San Francisco and fans of what you do.
Thank you, Pat.
And thanks for doing the Patcast.
Yeah, man, so much fun, and San Francisco is incredible, and I always look forward to going back there, man. I've spent 14 seasons up there, man. So I love it.
Great,
thanks a lot,
Barry Zito,
man.
Everybody. My favorite podcast by far. Sorry, everybody else. That was Barry Zito. And where do you find Barry Zito? You heard it from him. You don't. He got rid of his Twitter and his website. So we'll just have to be patient and wait for him to come up again. But you can always find us on Twitter at Patcast Podcast or at patcast.com and iTunes. I love you, Barry Zito. I love you, everybody listening. See you later.